The blue-eyed boy lays hold on Chiangtung. We may tell here how Sun Tse gradually became supreme on the east of the river. In the 4th year of the period established peace. 12. He took Luqiang by the defeat of the prefect Liu Sun. He dispatched Yu Fan with a dispatch to the prefect of Yuchang, 13 Hua Sin, and he surrendered. Thence his renown increased, and he boldly sent a memorial on his military successes to the emperor by the hand of Chang Hung. Tsao saw in him a powerful rival and said he was a lion difficult to contend with. So he betrothed his niece, daughter of Tsao Jern, to Sun Ke Wang, the youngest brother of Sun Tse, thus connecting the two families by marriage. He also retained Chang Hung near him in the capital. Then Sun Tse sought the title of Ta Suma, or Minister of War, one of the highest offices of state, but Tsao prevented the attainment of this ambition, and Sun Tse keenly resented it. Henceforward his thoughts turned toward an attack on Tsao. About this time the prefect of Wuchun sent a secret letter to the capital, to Tsao, saying that Sun Tse was a turbulent fellow of the Xiang Kai type, and the government ought, under the appearance of showing favor to him, to recall him to the capital, for he was a danger in the provinces. But the bearer of this letter was captured on the Yangtze River and sent to Sun Tse, who immediately put him to death. Then he treacherously sent to ask the author of the letter, Su Kung by name, to come and consult over some affair. The unsuspecting man came. Sun Tse produced the letter, saying, "So you wish to send me to the land of the dead, eh?" And thereupon the executioners came in and strangled him. The family of the victim scattered, but 3 of his clients determined to avenge him if only they could find some means of attacking Sun. Their chance came in the hunting field. One day Sun went hunting in the hills to the west of Tantu. A stag was started and Sun pressed after it at topmost speed and followed it deep into the forest. Presently he came upon 3 armed men standing among the trees. Rather surprised to see them there, he reined in and asked who they were. "We belong to Han Tang's army and are shooting deer," was the reply. So Sun Tse shook his bridle to proceed. But just as he did so, one of the men thrust at him with a spear and wounded his thigh. Sun drew the sword at his side, dashed forward and cut down the aggressor. The blade of his sword suddenly fell to the ground, only the hilt remaining in his hand. Then one of the assassins drew his bow and an arrow wounded Sun in the cheek. He plucked out the arrow and shot at the offender, who fell, but the other 2 attacked him furiously with their spears, shouting, "We are Su Kung's men and his avengers." Sun Tse then understood, but he had no weapons save his bow against them. He tried to draw off, keeping them at bay by striking with his bow, but the fight was getting too much for him, and both he and his steed were wounded in several places. However, just at the critical moment, some of his own men came up, and they made short work of the remaining 2 avengers. But their lord was in a sorry plight. His face was streaming with blood, and some of the wounds were very severe. They tore up his robe and therewith bound up his wounds, and they carried him home. A poem in praise of the 3 avengers says, "O Sun Tse was a warrior and a stranger he to fear, but he was basely murdered while hunting of the deer. Yet were they leal who slew him, to avenge a murdered lord, self-immolated like Yujang. They dreaded not the sword." Badly wounded, Sun Tse was borne to his home. They sent to call the famous physician, Hua To, but he was far away and could not be found. However, a disciple of his came, and the wounded man was committed to his care. "The arrowheads were poisoned," said the physician, "and the poison has penetrated deep. It will take 100 days of perfect repose before danger will be past. But if you give way to passion or anger, the wounds will not heal." Sun's temperament was hasty and impatient, and the prospect of such a slow recovery was very distasteful. However, he remained quiet for some 20 of the 100 days. Then came a messenger from the capital, and he insisted on seeing and questioning him. "Tsao fears you, my lord, very greatly," said the messenger, "and his advisers have exceeding respect for you, all except Quochia." "What did he say?" asked the sick chieftain. The messenger remained silent, which only irritated his master and caused him to demand to be told. So the messenger had to speak the truth. He said, "The fact is Quochia told Tsao that he need not fear you, that you were frivolous and unready, impulsive and shallow, just a stupid swaggerer who would one day come to his death at the hands of some mean person." This provoked the sick man beyond endurance. "How dare he say this of me, the fool?" cried son Tsao. "I will take the capital from Tsao, I swear." It was no more a question of repose. Ill as he was, he wanted to begin preparations for an expedition at once. They remonstrated with him, reminded him of the physician's orders, and urged him to rest. "You are risking your priceless self in a moment's anger," said Chang Kao. Then arrived Chern, the messenger from Yuan Shao, and Sun would have him brought in. He said, "My master wishes to ally himself with Wu in an attack on Tsao. Such a proposal was just after Sun's heart. At once he called a great meeting of his officers in the wall tower and prepared a banquet in honor of the messenger. While this was in progress, he noticed many of his captains whispering to each other, and they all began to go down from the banquet chamber. He could not understand this and inquired of the attendants near him what it meant. They told him that Saint Yu had just gone by, and the officers had gone down to pay their respects to him. Sun Tsao rose from his place and went and leaned over the railing to look at the man. He saw a Taoist priest in snowy garb leaning on his staff in the middle of the road, while the crowd about him burnt incense and made obeisance. "What wizard fellow is this? Bring him here," said Sun. "This is Yu Kai," said the attendants. "He lives in the east and goes to and fro distributing charms and drafts. He has cured many people, as everybody will tell you, and they say he is a saint. He must not be profaned." This only angered Sun the more, and he told them to arrest the man at once or disobey at their peril. So there being no help for it, they went down into the road and hustled the saint up the steps. "You madman, how dare you incite men to evil?" said Sun Tsao. "I am but a poor priest of the Lanier Palace. More than half a century ago, when gathering simples in the woods, I found near the Chuyang Spring a book called The Way of Peace. It contains 100 and more chapters and taught me how to cure the diseases of men. With this in my possession, I had only one thing to do, to devote myself to spreading its teachings and saving mankind. I have never taken anything from the people. Can you say I incite men to evil deeds? You say you take nothing. Whence came your clothes and your food? The fact is you are one of the yellow turban kidney, and you will work mischief if you are left alive. Take him away and put him to death," continued he to his attendants. Chang Kao interceded. "The Taoist has been here in the East these many years. He has never done any harm and does not deserve death or punishment. I tell you I will kill these wizard fellows just as I would cattle." The officials in a body interceded, even the guest of honor Chern, but in vain. Sun Tsao refused to be placated. He ordered the Taoist to be imprisoned. The banquet came to an end, and the messenger retired to his lodging. Sun Tsao also returned to his palace. His treatment of the Taoist holy man was the theme of general conversation, and soon reached the ears of his mother. She sent for her son to the lady's apartments and said to him, "They tell me you have put the Taoist in bonds. He has cured many sick people, and the common folk hold him in great reverence. Do not harm him." He is simply a wizard who upsets the multitude with his spells and craft. He must be put to death," replied Tsr. She entreated him to stay his hand, but he was obstinate. "Do not heed the gossip of the street, mother," said he. "I must be judge of these matters." However, he sent to the prison for the Taoist in order to interrogate him. Now the jailers, having a great respect for Yu Kai and faith in his powers, were very indulgent to him and did not keep him in the collar. However, when Tsr sent for him, he went with collar and fetters all complete. Tsr had heard of their indulgence and punished the jailers so that the prisoner thereafter lay in constant torture. Chang Keo and some others, moved by pity, made a petition which they humbly presented, and they offered to become surety for him. Sun Tsr said to them, "Gentlemen, you are all great scholars, but why do you not understand reason? Formerly in Chiachu was a certain Governor Chang Ching, who was deluded by these vicious doctrines into beating drums, twanging lyres, burning incense, and such things. He wore a red turban and represented himself as able to ensure victory to an army, but he was slain by the enemy. There is nothing in all this, only none of you will see it. I am going to put this fellow to death in order to stop the spread of this pernicious doctrine." Lu Fan interposed, "I know very well this Yu Kai can control the weather. It is very dry just now. Why not make him pray for rain as an amercement? We will see what sort of witchcraft he is equal to," said Sun Tsr. Whereupon he had the prisoner brought in, loosed his fetters, and sent him up to an altar to intercede for rain. The docile Taoist prepared to do as he was bidden. He first bathed himself, then dressed himself in clean garments. After that, he bound his limbs with a cord and lay down in the fierce heat of the sun. The people came in crowds to look on. Said he, "I will pray for 3 feet of refreshing rain for the benefit of the people. Nevertheless, I shall not escape death thereby." The people said, "But if your prayer be efficacious, our Lord must believe in your powers. The day of fate has come for me, and there is no escape." Presently Sun Tsr came near the altar and announced that if rain had not fallen by noon, he would burn the priest. And to confirm this, he bade them prepare the pyre. As it neared noon, a strong wind sprang up and the clouds gathered from all quarters, but there was no rain. "It is near noon," said Sun Tsr. "Clouds are of no account without rain. He is only an impostor." He bade his attendants lay the priest on the pyre and pile wood around him and apply the torch. Fanned by the gale, the flames rose rapidly. Then appeared in the sky above a wreath of black vapor, followed by roaring thunder and vivid lightning, peal on peal and flash on flash. And the rain fell in a perfect deluge. In a short time the streets became rivers and torrents. It was indeed a 3-feet fall. Yu Kai, who was still lying upon the pile of firewood, cried in a loud voice, "O clouds, cease thy rain, and let the glorious sun appear." Thereupon officials and people helped the priest down, loosened the cord that bound him, and bowed before him in gratitude for the rain. But Sun Tsr boiled with rage at seeing his officers, and the people gathered in groups and kneeling in the water, regardless of the damage to their clothing. Rain or shine are as nature appoints them, and the wizard has happened to hit upon a moment of change. "What are you making all this fuss about?" cried he. Then he drew his sword and told the attendants to smite the Taoist therewith. They all besought him to hold his hand. "You want to follow Yu Kai in rebellion, I suppose," cried Sun Tsr. The officers, now thoroughly cowed by the rage of their lord, were silent and showed no opposition when the executioners seized the unhappy Taoist and beheaded him. They saw just a wreath of black smoke drift away to the northeast, where lay the Langye Mountains. The corpse was exposed in the marketplace as a warning to enchanters and wizards and such people. That night there came a very violent storm, and when it calmed down at daylight there was no trace of the body. The guards reported this, and Sun Tser in his wrath sentenced them to death. But as he did so, he saw Yu Kai calmly walking toward him as if he were still alive. He drew his sword and darted forward to strike at the wraith, but he fainted and fell to the ground. They carried him to his chamber, and in a short time he recovered consciousness. His mother, the Lady Wu, came to visit him and said, "My son, you have done wrong to slay the Holy One, and this is your retribution." "Mother, when I was a boy I went with my father to the wars, where men are cut down as one cuts hempen stalks. There is not much retribution about such doings. I have put this fellow to death and so checked a great evil. Where does retribution come in?" "This comes of want of faith," she replied. "Now you must avert the evil by meritorious deeds. My fate depends on heaven. Wizards can do me no harm, so why avert anything?" His mother saw that it was useless to try persuasion, but she told his attendants to do some good deeds secretly, whereby the evil should be turned aside. That night about the third watch, as Sun Tser lay in his chamber, he suddenly felt a chill breeze, which seemed to extinguish the lamps for a moment, although they soon brightened again, and he saw in the lamp light the form of Yu Kai standing near his bed. Sun said, "I am the sworn foe of witchcraft, and I will purge the world of all such as deal in magic. You are a spirit, and how dare you approach me?" Reaching down a sword that hung at the head of his bed, he hurled it at the phantom, which then disappeared. When his mother heard this story, her grief redoubled. Sun Tser, ill as he was, did his utmost to reassure his mother. She said, "The Holy One says, how abundantly do spiritual beings display the powers that belong to them. And prayer has been made to the spirits of the upper and lower worlds. You must have faith. You sinned in putting Master Yu to death, and retribution is sure. I have already sent to have sacrifices performed at the Jade Pure Monastery, and you should go in person to pray. May all come right." Sun Tser could not withstand such a mandate from his mother, so, mustering all his strength, he managed to get into a sedan chair and went to the monastery, where the Taoists received him respectfully and begged him to light the incense. He did so, but he returned no thanks. To the surprise of all, the smoke from the brazier, instead of floating upwards and dissipating, collected in a mass that gradually shaped itself into an umbrella, and there, on the top, sat Yu Kai. Sun Tser simply spat abuse and went out of the temple. As he passed the gates, lo! Yu Kai stood there gazing at him with angry eyes. "Do you see that wizard fellow?" said he to those about him. They said they saw nothing. More angry than ever, he flung his sword at the figure by the gate. The sword struck one of his escort, who fell. When they turned him over, they saw it was the executioner who had actually slain the Taoist. The sword had penetrated his brain, and his life drained out through the 7 channels of perception. Sun Tser told them to bury the man, but as he went out of the courtyard, he saw Yu Kai walking in. "This temple is nothing more than a lurking place for sorcerers and wizards and such people," said he. Whereupon he took a seat in front of the building and sent for half a company of soldiers to pull the place down. When they went up on the roof to strip off the tiles, he saw Yu Kai standing on the main beam flicking tiles to the ground. More angry than ever, he told them to drive out the priests belonging to the place and burn it. They did so, and when the flames rose their highest, he saw the dead Taoist Yu Kai standing in the midst of the fire. Sun Tser returned home still in a bad humor, which increased when he saw the form of Yu Kai standing at his gate. He would not enter, but mustered his army and went into camp outside the city walls. And there he summoned his officers to meet him and talk over joining Yuan in an attack on Tsao. They assembled, but they remonstrated with him and begged him to consider his precious health. That night he slept in the camp and again saw Yu Kai, this time with his hair hanging loose. He raged at the vision without cessation. Next day his mother called him into the city and he went. She was shocked at the change in his appearance. He looked so utterly miserable. Her tears fell. "My son," said she, "how wasted you are." He had a mirror brought and looked at himself. He was indeed so gaunt and thin that he was almost frightened and exclaimed, "How do I come to look so haggard?" While he spoke, Yu Kai appeared in the mirror. He struck it and shrieked. Then the half-healed wounds reopened and he fainted. He was raised and born within. When he recovered consciousness, he said, "This is the end. I shall die." He sent for Chang Keo and his other chief officers and his brother, Sun Chuan, and they gathered in his chamber. He gave them his dying charge, saying, "In the disordered state of the Empire, Wu and Yue, with their strong defense of the three Qiang, have a brilliant future. You, Chang Keo, must assist my brother." So saying, he handed his seal to Sun Chuan, saying, "For manipulating the might of Chiangtung so as to make it the deciding force between two factions, and then obtaining the whole empire, you are not so suited as I. But in encouraging the wise and confiding in the able, and getting the best out of everyone for the preservation of this district, I should not succeed as you will. Remember with what toil and labor your father, and I have won what we possess, and take good care thereof." Sun Chuan wept as he knelt to receive the seal, and the dying chief turned to his mother. "Mother, the days allotted of heaven have run out, and I can no longer serve my tender mother. I have given over the seal to my brother and trust that you will advise him early and late, and see that he lives worthy of his predecessors." "Alas, your brother is full young for such a task," said his mother weeping. "I know not what may happen. He is far abler than I and fully equal to the task of ruling. Should he have doubts upon internal affairs, he must turn to Chang Keo. For outer matters he must consult Chu Yu. It is a pity Chu Yu is absent so that I cannot give him my charge face to face." To his brothers he said, "When I am gone, you must help your brother. Should any discord arise in the family, let the others punish the wrongdoer, and let not his ashes mingle with those of his ancestors in the family vaults." The young men wept at these words. Then he called for his wife, the famous beauty of the Chiao family, and said, "Unhappily we have to part while still in the full vigor of life. You must care for my mother. Your sister will come to see you presently, and you can ask her to tell Chu Yu to help my brother in all things and make him keep to the way I have taught him to walk in." Then he closed his eyes and soon after passed away. He was only 26. Men called him first of the chieftains. The East had felt his might. He watched like a tiger crouching, struck as a hawk in flight. There was peace in the lands he ruled. His fame ran with the wind, but he died and left to another the great scheme in his mind. As his brother breathed his last, Sun Chuan sank by his bed and wept. "This is not the time to mourn," said Chang Keo. "First see to the funeral ceremonies and that the government is safe." So the new ruler dried his tears. The superintendence of the funeral was confided to Sun Qing, and then Chang Keo led his young master to the hall to receive the felicitations of his officers. Sun Chuan was endowed with a square jaw and a large mouth. He had blue eyes and a dark brown beard. Formerly, when Liu Yuan had gone to Wu to visit the Sun family, he said of the family of brothers, "I have looked well at them all, and they are all clever and perspicacious, but none of them have the very ultimate degree of good fortune. Only the second has the look of a deep thinker. His face is remarkable, and his build unusual, and he has the look of one who will come to great honor. But none of them will attain to the blessing of a great age." History says that when Sun Chuan succeeded to his brother and his brother's might, there was still some reorganization to be done. Soon Chu Yu had arrived. The young ruler received him very graciously and said, "I need have no anxiety now that you have come." It will be remembered that Chu Yu had been sent to hold Pachu. When he heard that his chief had been wounded by an arrow, he thought it well to return to see how he was. But Sun Tse had died before Chu Yu could arrive. He hurried to be present at the funeral. When he went to wail at the coffin of his late chief, Wu Fujian, the dead man's mother, came out to deliver her son's last injunctions. When she had told him the last charge, he bowed to the earth, saying, "I shall exert the puny powers I have in your service as long as I live." Shortly after, Sun Chuan came in, and after receiving Chu Yu's obeisance, said, "I trust you will not forget my brother's charge to you." Chu bowed, saying, "I would willingly suffer any form of death for you. How best can I maintain this grave charge, which I have inherited from my father and brother? He who wins men prospers. He who loses them fails. Your present plan should be to seek men of high aims and far-seeing views, and you can establish yourself firmly. My brother bade me consult Chang Kao for internal administration, and yourself on external matters," said Chuan. "Chang Kao is wise and understanding and equal to such a task. I am devoid of talent and fear to take such responsibility, but I venture to recommend to you as a helper one Lu Su, named Tizu Qing, a man of Tungchuan. This man's bosom hides strategy and his breast conceals tactics. He lost his father in early life and has been a perfectly filial son to his mother. His family is rich and renowned for charity to the needy. When I was stationed at Xiaoxiachang, I led some hundreds of men across the Linhui. We were short of grain. Hearing that the Lu family had 2 granaries there, each holding 3,000 measures, I went to ask for help. Lu Su pointed to one granary and said, "Take that as a gift." Such was his generosity. He has always been fond of fencing and horse archery. He was living in Chuo. His grandmother died while he was there, and he went to bury her in Tungchang, and then his friend, Liu Tizuyang, wished to engage him to go to Chayahu and join Chang Pao. However, he hesitated about that and has not gone yet. You should invite him without loss of time. Sun Chuan at once sent Chu Yu to engage the services of this man, and he set out. When the obeisances were over, he laid before his friend the inducements that his own master held out. He replied that, as he had been engaged by Liu Tizuyang to go to Chayahu, he was just starting thither. Said Chu Yu, "Of old Ma Yuan said to Quangwu, this is an age when not only do princes select their ministers, but ministers choose their princes. Now our general son calls to him the wise and treats his officers well. Thus he engages the help of the wonderful and gets the services of the extraordinary in a way that few others do. But if you are not engaged elsewhere, come with me to Wu as the best thing to do." Lu Su returned with him and saw Sun Chuan, who treated him with the greatest deference, and with him discussed affairs very fully. The conference proved so interesting that it went on all day and neither felt fatigue. One day at the close of the usual reception, the chief kept Lu Su to dine with him. They sat up late and by slept on the same couch as would the closest of friends. In the dead of night, Sun Chuan said to his bedfellow, "The dynasty is failing and everything is at 6s and 7s. I have received a great charge from my father and brother, and I am thinking of imitating the actions of Huan and Wern, and becoming the leader of the feudal lords, and I pray you instruct me." Lu Su replied, "Of old Han Kaotsu wished to honor and serve the Emperor I, but could not on account of Hsiang use evil doings. Now Tsao can be compared with Hsiang Yu. How can you be Huan and Wern? My humble opinion is that the hands have fallen beyond hope of recovery, and Tsao cannot be destroyed, and that the only key to your schemes is to secure your present position, in order to keep the master hand and control the combinations among the others. Now take advantage of the turmoil in the north to smite Huangzi and attack Liu Pao. Thereby you will command the whole length of the great river Yangtze. Then you may style yourself emperor or king, and thereafter as may be. This was how Cao Tzu acted. Hearing this, Sun Chuan was very greatly pleased. He threw on some clothing, got up and thanked his newfound advisor. Next day Sun Chuan gave him costly gifts and sent robes and hangings to his mother. Lu Su then recommended a friend of his to the young man's notice, a man of wide reading and great ability. He was also a filial son. His double name was Chuko Chin, and he came from Nanyang. Sun Chuan treated him as a superior guest. This man dissuaded Sun Chuan from making common cause with Yuan Shao, but advised him rather to favor Tsao, against whom he could plan when occasion served. Sun Chuan therefore sent back the messenger Chern with dispatches that broke off all negotiations. Hearing of Sun Tsr's death, Tsao was for sending an expedition against Chiangnan. But a certain historian, Chang Hung, dissuaded him, saying that it would be mean to take advantage of the period of mourning. And if you should not overcome him, you will make him an enemy instead of being a friend. It would be preferable to treat him generously. So Tsao memorialized the throne and obtained for Sun Chuan the title of Generalissimo and Prefect of Qiuchi, while Chang Hung was appointed under him as Tu, and a seal of office was sent him. The new appointment pleased Sun Chuan, and he was also glad to get Chang Hung back again. He was sent to act jointly with Chang Kao. Chang Hung was the means of getting another into Sun Chuan's service. His friend was Ku Young, known also as Yuan Tian, a disciple of the historian T.S.I. Young. He was a man of few words and an abstainer from wine. He was very correct in all things. Sun Chuan employed him in the administration. Henceforward Sun Chuan's rule was very prosperous, and he waxed mightily in influence and won the love of all the people. When Chern had returned and related the events in Wu, and told of the honors that Tsao had obtained for the young man in return for his support, Yuan Shao was very wroth, and he set about preparing for an attack on the capital with a force of 70 legions of northern men. Although in the south they rest from war, they rattle the spears neath the northern star. Later it will be seen which side conquered.